once you getting them to the site, they'll love it because once they see all like the cool tools and let them use the skill saw, or if you bring them to the site, you say, here's a broom and a garbage bag, you know what I mean? And it's 30 degrees out, they're not going to want to come back the next day. But if you throw them a nail gun, a skill saw, and a speed square and let them use a chop saw, and before you know it, they're like, what? It's 3 or 4 o'clock already?
Harvey Jesso, you know him as the Maritime Carpenter. Myself and Ken had a chance to hang out with him in Rhode Island at JLC Live. Me and Ken immediately said we got to have him on the podcast. He has the most interesting take on trades, life experience, and understanding of what it takes to make it in the trades. It's exciting to have you on. You had a start in workforce that I guess high school or right at age, I think 19 is when you said 18, 19.
Well, originally it actually started. My father and all his brothers, they were all carpenters or masons of some sort in the construction trade. So I guess it started for me really when I took the interest into trades. I was actually 10, I think, when I showed up on my first construction site. They were building a house in my neighborhood. I kind of went over just kicking rocks and then asked if I could pick up blocks of wood or just do anything around the site, just more or less to be there to take up my summer. And I was fortunate enough that the super of the project was he's like, you know what? How about we just have you clean up our site all summer and just kind of pick away at things and help the guys and stuff like that. So right from then, I was like, yeah, 10, and I had an interest from it. But like I said, it's my back coming from my father and my uncles and stuff. I knew I was going to be in the trades. I never ever thought that I was going to be an entrepreneur, but yeah, so I kind of knew that I was going to be getting into carpentry or some sort of construction field, but carpentry, I think, was the biggest of it because my old man was a carpenter. And I just remember as a kid pulling and straightening nails, buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of nails, and just kind of getting through that and still wanting to do it. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what I was meant to do. And then, yeah, and then as I went on to after I left high school, I moved directly to Toronto as soon as I left Newfoundland, which is far, far east. Uh, and then I started building houses in Ontario, and that was in
Nice.
'99, I guess.
Okay, so did your dad work for somebody? Did most of your people in your family work for somebody?
No, my old man always had a construction business.
His own.
Exactly, yeah. But his construction business consisted of mainly masonry. Um, but then, so I would say it'd be like 60-40 mason, carpentry and stuff like that. So kind of in the slow season for the masonry, he would build houses and stuff like that.
Do you feel like, because I often, I wonder, like, Ken and myself, like, our background is family trades and everything like that. And that's kind of where we learned. That's kind of where everything took place. Do you feel like that's like the ideal place to learn?
Like, family definitely helps because you're always around it and stuff like that. Um, but I know, like, I've taken on, so I kind of work with the university that's just down the street from me, and I take students there that have never been around it ever, but they just really had an interest in it. So I think those students are the ones that you really want to mold, you know what I mean? Because they don't know nothing about carpentry, but they just really want to absorb everything about it. And every student I've ever taken from the university, they were just super interested and they just absorbed everything I taught them and stuff like that. And yeah, they were end up being amazing. I think they can only work with me for 6 weeks, and I talked to some, which would be probably 4 or 5 years later, and they're still doing it. They still love it. So I think it's pretty
It,
much wherever you go out of the university or whoever your co-op teacher is, or I think that helps a lot. You know what I mean? If they could stay away from the yelling and your typical construction foremans and stuff like that, I think it could go far, but I think that's what scares a lot of them away.
are these people that their goal is to go into a trade? Are they in school for that?
Exactly. They're in school for carpentry, and then they send them out to us for 6 weeks. So we usually get them from the beginning of May till the middle of June. And
Gotcha.
so it's just like a 6 week trial run. And yeah, and every student I've had, I've known now like they're still doing it, which I probably had in the last 7 years, probably about 10. Yeah.
Nice.
So I mean, it works out good, and I mean they love it, and but like I said, I've had students that have never ever swung a hammer, never ever touched a tape, only ever read what they learn into a book and picking around at the university and stuff like that. But when you get them out on the site and stuff, obviously you're a little skeptical about letting them use certain tools and stuff like that because you're nervous, and
Table saws.
when they first pull the trigger and they jump back, and and table saws especially. That's even to this day, even my guys, experienced guys, I still get nervous. But yeah, no, I think it's really on how you approach them, or and just really take your time with them. I feel like, and it helps a lot because you don't want them just to like the carpentry, you want them to like the atmosphere that's around too, and you just don't want them to give your typical stereotypical construction guy that's screaming and yelling all the time and throwing crap, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot
I
of
think
them,
that
when they
was
left,
mine and Ken's upbringing.
yeah. So fortunate that I've hadn't every foreman or somebody I worked with were they were just excellent to work with. So I think that's why I stuck with it for so long, and that's what I'll die doing. Is because I've been fortunate to work with some really really good teachers, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely was brought up in the other side of that. I had a 28-ounce Estwing chucked at me from the rooftop,
Yeah.
but that's just part of it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's been times to where when I was first starting maritime carpentry, you know what I mean? You get stressed sometimes, and it does get away from you. You know what I mean? Like I'm not perfect. You do get yelling and get frustrated and stuff like that, but it's how you take it at the end of the day, I guess. And as long as you're take yourself accountable for the screaming and yelling and don't scare them away, you're all right.
Right. Because you can't do it by yourself,
No, exactly,
which
100%.
leads into like 100%. I feel like you're really good at scaling your business. Like you find a need, you start a new business to fill that need so you don't have to depend on other people, which is very interesting. Like, how did you get to that point? Was it just that you needed something and you couldn't find it in your time frame, so you just decided to open up another business?
So I had originally started the carpentry business, and I've had that for a while. And then what had happened was I had worked with an electrical company when I first started. We kind of started our businesses together, and there was this one apprentice that was there, and he was the one that always come out to my sites because I'd always hire the same company, and we just got along really, really well. But he's coming up in his apprenticeship, so most cases with electricians and stuff like that, it's very rare that they stay with the same company after they get their red seal. 70% of them either start on their own or just go work for a more industrial, like bigger company. And then, so what had happened, this guy had approached me because I didn't have any thought about open electrical company, but never really put too much thought into it. And then he had approached, and then he had said, "Have you ever thought about it?" And then, I knew his work. I knew his work ethic. I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to start an electrical company, this will be the guy that I would like to start it with because I know his quality of work. And yeah, so that's just kind of where it went. And then it was pretty much 2 weeks later, I went to the lawyers, got it all signed up, the corporation and stuff. And then that was almost 6 years ago, and it's still going.
Do you feel like your strength as far as like I think a lot of people don't understand like the business aspect of it, right? I think for myself, I was a contractor. I could understand the skill part of it, the business end I wasn't as good in. Do you think that like that's like your area that you can really obviously your work is amazing, but also like you just have a mind for business?
Um, yeah, well, I think right, like I started my first company when I was 18 years old. It was when I first moved to Toronto. It's because I was doing piecework. So I went out, started a business, build a house. They give us drawings, we build a house, just kind of like that, and so on and so forth. And then there were times where I worked for other companies, but I think after having that business, I was kind of like, you know what, I kind of like this working for myself. And then, then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then it was a point where I was working out west, pipelining, like for 3 years in the middle of the woods up in the Yukon, freezing my ass off. And then I kind of told the wife, I was like, once I finish this, I'm going to come back. And once I get laid off or fired or whatever, I'm going to start maritime carpentry and just hit that with everything. So everything I kind of made out there, not everything, but a portion of it, I put it all in the company and just kind of hope for the best. And, that was in 2015. But, yeah, and I don't miss freezing when it's off in the middle of the woods, -50. So yeah,
Yeah.
That's a crazy story. But
but,
so do you have 4 businesses then? Like,
yes. So we have Maritime Carpentry, which was the first one. And then we started, Maritime Electrical 6 years ago. And then I opened the kitchen shop, 3 years ago, Maritime Kitchens. And the reason I opened that is because I was, installing cabinets for these big box stores like Home Depot, Kent, which is our big box store down here, which is comparable to Home Depot, and a couple other smaller ones. And I was bringing them quite a few like contracts a year. And then I was like, okay, well, this is going to be like my 5-year plan. I'm going to open my own store, sell my own cabinets, my own stone, my own faucets, sinks, and just see what happens. But it just so happened that 3 years ago, I was driving down the street, me and the wife, and I seen a building, and I'm like, that would be a perfect place to open the store. It's like, and it was for rent, and the wife was just kind of like, "You're right," and I was like, "What?" She's like, "You're right," and I'm like, so literally, I got home that night, and I was like, just emailing vendors and trying to get it figured out, and it just so happened that one of the biggest cabinet builders in New Brunswick was looking for a vendor in my city, and I got the lead from the person that I was buying my hardware off of, and she said, "Call this number." She gave me his direct number, and I called him, and he was like, "Yeah, let's have some meetings and talk about it." I had 3 meetings with him. It worked out really good in my favor because he followed me on social media. So as soon as I went into the meeting, he was like, "Oh yeah, I follow you on social media. I love your work." So he kind of was my reference. So it worked out good. And then, yeah, we ended up working together, and that was 3 years ago. And so now I have a storefront, which is probably 3 minutes from my house. And we just rented a big warehouse now for the cabinets because it's getting busy. So now we actually have to stock cabinets and stuff like that. And so that was that one. And then Maritime Clean Crew is the one we just started about. Actually, it'll be a year in August. And then
So you got your hands in everything with employees. Like, what are the things that you're saying? So, like, obviously, we teach young people, and you're somebody that hires a ton of young people. What are you looking for? What's like a standout employee that can really grow?
um, definitely like ambition. Like I feel like so like right now, I'm building a fourplex, so 4 townhouse, 2-story building. So now I have, well, hired my first student on Monday. He starts on Monday when I get back from vacation. I get another one. So these are just like 15, 16-year-olds looking for summer jobs they talk to me and well, they don't talk to me. It's my daughters as their age, and they know I own companies and they hang out and stuff like that. But they're interested in doing carpentry or electrical or just getting into the trades. And so I was kind of like, yeah, just tell them to give me a call. So I got 2 students that are starting with me this summer that are interested in it, and they seem excited. So the first student I have, he likes it. I mean, he shows up to work every day, but it's just the 15-year-old mentality. You know what I mean? Of trying to get them past that little bit of hard work, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But once you get them there and you try to make it fun for them, then it helps a little bit. So once you start letting them use the tools and stuff like that and nail guns and stuff like that, obviously, you know, I have the guys that are always monitoring them and stuff like that to make sure everything is good. And then they seem to like it. So this student that I have that started on Monday, second day today, and he's like really interested in stuff like that. And I show him how to read a measuring tape and swing a hammer. So I kind of start him off with the small things of kind of what I used to have to do. So if we pull boards or braces, I'm like, pull the nails out of that, clean up the cutoffs and stuff, and snap some lines with us, and put your poly or your vapor barrier on your walls and stuff. So but he seems to like it. And one that starts when I get back from vacation, he seemed very excited about too. So, but like I said, once the 30-degree weather hits and there's no shade and no breeze, then that's really where I'm going to have to try to keep them in, you know what I mean, and interested, because there is some negatives of the job, but those are the types that the only really negatives of it is getting them to work through 30-degree weather and like things like that, because they're not used to being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
kids
Do you
nowadays
think that
are.
they go in? Do you think they go into it with like a misconception of what actually is going on, and then they actually? Do you think young people as a whole would enjoy it more than they kind of let on to?
I think so. I think once you getting them to the site, like they'll love it, because once they see all like the cool tools and stuff like that, and you let them, hammer, like use the nail gun and stuff like that. You know what I mean? To them, it's just like, to hear that pop, it's like, wow, this is amazing. Or you're running the big 12-inch chop saw, or then you start getting them to use their tools, like, you know what I mean, teaching them how the tools work, like your speed squares, and you know what I mean, let them use the skill saw or something like that. Or, I think it's trying to make them feel accomplished, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, they could look back and be like, oh, you know what, I helped with that. But, or like building a house, you know what I mean? Like, what kid doesn't like to sit back at the end of a new build and like, oh wow, like I had a hand in building that, you know what I mean? And then they take that back to their friends, and they're like, this is crazy. And I guarantee you, every time that kid drives by that construction site, he's going to be like, that's what I did, 100%. And then adrenaline starts kicking in, and then before you know it, they're like, what, it's 3 o'clock? The only thing is that I get up super early and I'm on the go like 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I said, if you could get them to the site, you're already doing amazing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't capitalize, don't take the opportunity. I know it's an investment. I know there's a cost to invest in young people, pull them in and everything young. But I think the payoff is huge. I know the builders that I work with that have worked with young people from my class, now they're basically starting to see the effect and having young people come on excited and then kind of getting somebody before bad habits and stuff have formed. So Adam was kind enough to join us.
I have I'm the one with little kids, so I have a 9-month-old and a 4-year-old. So,
okay. So you're squeezing us
yep.
in.
Yes. Yeah, and the 4-year-old is a little sick, right? So I out of good conscience, I could not abandon my wife.
It's Harvey's daughter's wedding today, so I mean,
Seriously?
we all got excuses.
They're actually out in the yard right now waiting for me to walk her down the aisle.
It's like, all right, give them your advice and let's go, Dad.
All right, so
So I run an after-school program where we teach 5th through 12th graders how to use power tools. In our shop, we have 4 values: be teachable, be on time, be positive, and give your best effort. And we try to teach that every day, all day long. What age groups? Because Noah was saying that you do some job
he hires
development.
people.
Yeah. Okay.
He was just talking about how he hires young people, so like 14, 15, 16 kids his daughter's age.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And then I take some students from the university as well, once a year, and they're usually early 20s. But actually, it's the majority are early 20s. But I've had some like mid 40-year-olds and stuff like that were actually just getting into it. 2 years ago, I had a banker from Brazil that was 46 years old that come and work for me. He did banking his whole life, and he always wanted to do carpentry, and he packed up and moved to Canada and started carpentry, and he was going to school for it.
That's awesome.
So that was wild.
Did it
And I'm
work
like,
out?
how did you end up here? Yeah, he actually works for, I hired him after school, and he worked with me for 2 years. And then it was something to do with his visa or something like that, that he went with, ended up going with a bigger commercial company, doing it. So now he's probably not doing what he'd like to do, but the bigger commercial company, they're just more or less building hoardings and stuff like that, like, cause it's a bigger construction site. So he's still doing carpentry, I guess, but probably not but not building houses or like what we do anymore, but it's still labeled as carpentry, I guess.
Well, good on him for at least, I think a
Yeah.
lot of times people will just settle for being miserable in their job and then not want to experience something different. So
Yeah.
good on him for that.
It was crazy
Yeah.
because he showed up so happy every day. Just like, I think I could have had him building birdhouses and he would have been still happy. Like, he was just so happy to be doing carpentry. Like, it was amazing after doing, like banking his whole life. He said it was just kind of like a switch that went, and they just, yeah, he pursued it. So I was pretty blown away by that story on how it doesn't really matter how old you are. If you want to do it, just do it. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I teach a night class at the community college, which in the States, like they have community college everywhere. It's affordable college, and they just have certification programs. And the majority of the students there are just they're trying to get out of their career. They work for the government, which is very big in our area, and it's a very boring job, most of the government jobs. And most of them are like, I just can't take it anymore. Like, I'm done. I want to do something that has some meaning. And I think it's the same feeling that young people have. Like, I think we have a problem being in the schools. Young people are stuck on their computers and they're just done with it. They're just like, I don't enjoy it. So then they step into our classes and they're like, oh, or they step onto your job site, Harvey, and they're like, yeah, this is cool. Like, I actually feel something. Like, I feel happy when I work. I feel happy when I've accomplished something. I feel like everyone's just kind of searching for that. And I mean, the nice thing is you can still make a very good living, So,
Exactly. And I
know,
think it's just going to get better. You know what I mean? Because, trades, I feel like it's getting promoted a lot more now in the last 3 or 4 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just everybody's
Yeah.
putting it out there, trying to get the young people and get the young people in. So I think everybody's being, when you do get somebody that's ambitious about it, they're a little more friendlier about it. They'll answer a lot more questions about it. As where before it was just kind of like, get away from me. Now it's just kind of like, oh, you're interested. Okay. This isn't this and this, how it works and stuff like that. And like what I do on my sites is like, if I get a student in, I always try to teach them what I think they might learn into a class when they go back to like high school and they do, shop class and stuff like that. I kind of have a sense for what tools they might use. So when they go back, they could kind of be like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. So that kind of excites them because then they could teach the other kids in their class that are just getting into it or something like that. So it kind of gives them a little bit of an edge on the other kids, and it makes them a little more, excited about it because they could teach kids their age about it that never done it because they worked on a site all summer learning the tools and stuff like that. And so I think that's pretty good. And that hopefully overflows into when they graduate and make them want to get into the trades more.
So would you, like, kind of what you were just talking about, do you just through relationships, is that where just neighbors, friends, us knuckleheads, other people in your community, is that where you get connected to the youth that like you have brought on to the job site and things like that?
Yeah. He's just kind of a really big deal, so everyone knows about him in
Yeah.
his area.
That's right. It's like showing up at the door, like you're hired. Yes. Um,
Got a job for you, got a job for you, and a job for
exactly.
you.
I've been
I'll
working with
start
the
that company so
university.
you have a job.
thank
Exactly.
you, Mr. Jesso. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the case. I think I take on more students and younger ones, hoping that when they finish school, they come work for me because we have such a hard time finding guys. So I guess
Mhm.
in my way, it's like, oh, I'll start molding you now at like 15 and 16. So when you actually do go to school, you're like, oh, maritime carpentry. Yeah, I'll go work for that guy. Instead of
Right.
as soon as they get their red seal, it's like, okay, see ya. You know what I mean? I'm going to Home Depot and getting a $50,000 loan and start my own company. And so, which I don't have anything against that because obviously as companies, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's really, really hard to find red seal carpenters or anybody that, you know what I mean? Like with any sort of trade experience. So,
Maybe I'm the odd one out here. What red seal? I don't know what that term is.
oh, it's just when you get your license for carpentry. So, um, So it's
Okay.
4 years
I
schooling
get.
for carpentry. So they call it a Red Seal ticket down here.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like a stamp
They,
saying that you've done the schooling and stuff
in the
like that.
states, you just have to have a busted up pickup truck, and a dog is preferred, but they just let anybody be a carpenter.
Yeah.
Case in point, I'm teaching this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need the Red Seal, but it's definitely a huge asset, right? Like my main guys are not Red Seal carpenters. They're just, really good carpenters. Right. So it's just, but
I
I mean,
gotcha.
if you have a Red Seal, it's like, say if you were starting a new company, it'll kind of you could kind of use that as like a gimmick, I guess. Right.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I got nothing to say in Red Seals, you know what I mean? It's amazing ticket to have, and it's really good schooling for it and stuff like that. And it's, it definitely helps for sure. But like I said, the Red Seals are usually working for themselves. And have their own companies, and that's why I have to hire non-Red Seal carpenters because there isn't any around. So, but like I said, my guys don't have Red Seals. My electricians all do because that you do have to have Red Seal tickets to work on anything electrical. Same thing with plumbing, but carpentry, which is super weird, they'll just let you show up with your pickup truck and your thermos and go right to work.
It's pretty similar here as far as that. You can be pretty much a carpenter. I mean, you can have your contractor's license, which is separate, but if you want to be like a master electrician or a master plumber or a journeyman for either one, you have to go through both schooling and show a certain number of hours. But even for like
Exactly.
I have my contractor's license, I just had to show a certain number of hours for a licensed contractor as like a general contractor. So, which everything for my stuff falls under carpentry. So it's probably pretty similar as
Exactly.
far as that. I was talking trash about the U.S. moments ago, but I'm going to take that back. So,
Yeah.
You were talking about working with like 14, 15. Are you able to pay them to do work with y'all in Canada?
Yeah.
are you trying to
Yes.
figure out how to not pay somebody, Adam?
No, well, so we're in the process of creating a workforce development
sorry.
program, and we're well, here's the nutshell real fast. We want to pay kids, but we can't pay them till they're 18 because of child labor laws. There's a couple exemptions, and so we're working on the exemptions. So I was just curious. So the exemptions will get us down to 16 years old to where we can put people through. So our organization is bigger than this, just my program. And we already have workforce development for like other programs in general, but we want to start including the trades and try to figure out how to do that to also pay kids. Technically have a 14-year-old volunteering and put power tools in their hand, put them on a roof and no one cares. But the moment you give them any type of reimbursement, everyone is waving flags. So
Yes. Well, here, 14 years old, you could start, and there's
okay.
they don't pay. So I could put them on the payroll, but they just don't pay into anything. So they don't get taxed or anything like that.
That's
So
awesome.
it's just kind of straight pay at minimum wage.
Yeah.
So yeah, because my daughter, she's been on the payroll for, uh, since she was 14 years old. And then, but yeah, so that's the only thing. So they'll still get their pay stubs. It's just that it's just straight pay with minimum wage, and that's it. And I think once they turn 17, I'm pretty sure, maybe 18, then it all starts. Then they start getting all their deductions taken out, their pension and stuff. But I think 14 is when they could actually start being on the books. But the students that I hire, I don't put them on the books, so I usually just pay them cash. Plus they're, 15 years old. Friday, get a wad of cash in your hand, they get pretty. That also makes them want to come back to work on Monday.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I see that like because my program spans so many years, because we're like fifth, sixth grade is when they can start, depending, all the way to seniors. We see a lot of interest sometimes in the middle school years, but then as they can like get a job and they get older, or basketball seems more interesting, like our attrition rate to our sophomore, junior, seniors for us drops pretty heavily. So we're trying to figure out different paths. I mean, money is always an interesting thing, or also just, you know, develop more interesting projects, things like that that might keep kids around. Um,
Exactly.
tried to trying to just develop something like to cast a vision of what like their life could be, and for
Yes.
them to like actually last on to that. I ate breakfast with an alumni student who's 20 years old that's applying to do in the millwork carpentry union. I mean, we're in Pittsburgh, dude. If you work your butt off, you could own a house in 5 years. He's made some dumb choices already, so
But yeah, we've all made dumb decisions, but it takes a while. Like I started my first business when I was like I said 18 years old, and
that's awesome.
that was like probably 3 or 4 years, and then there was kind of broke up in between that and stuff like that where I went away, and then when I come back, then I was kind of really committed to what I kind of have right now and where it's going. So, and I think that was like 30 when I started that.
Harvey, you've accomplished some amazing stuff. Like, you're super fun to be around. It sounds like to work for you would be amazing. All those things. So Adam will probably be applying for a job. He was asking about salary, but what can a young person be doing now if their goal is to get where you got? What's like some advice that you would give a young person?
I would say, like I said, absorb everything that somebody tells you into the trade. Like that was huge. Like I think like the people that like taught me and stuff like that, I kind of just took everything with a grain of salt. And you got to have a really positive attitude, and try not to let your feelings get hurt too much, because I guess is what it is you got to try to do is to get into the head of the actual contractor, because some of them could be pretty brutal. But if you could get past that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really good. It's just like, and it's not going to happen overnight. Obviously, they're kids, they got to go through the transitions of life. So there's going to be points where they're going to be like, I'm not making enough money, or Johnny down the road is making $4 more an hour to me working at Costco or whatever. You know what I mean? It just takes time to get there. I would say, like, just take your time. Don't rush. Like, it'll eventually happen. I think right now trades are going to be huge. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be where it's at, because the universities I work with, it's just like push. And everybody I talk to, all the young kids I talk to, mainly male, carpentry or electrical. I don't know if they're pushing it more in actual high school, but I feel like it's going to be huge. It's going to be, a higher level of a career than what it was portrayed to be 20 years ago. And I think with all this stuff and all the social media now that kids are on, um, it's good. And I feel like as long as you ask lots of questions to the right people, obviously, right? I think that helps a lot too. But like I said, it's not going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? Like I had a lot of learning curves where I was just like, screw this. I'm going back in the pipeline. This is too hard. And then I kind of woke up, give my head a shake, and just be like, okay, let's just give it another day, give it another day, give it another day. And just got past it to where now this is my life, you know what I mean? And that's it, you know what I mean? And you can work hard for it. Like I said, it's the harder you work, obviously, the more you'll get. But I just think just take your time and just let it happen, you know what I mean? And just don't be afraid to ask questions, and just listen to just listen.
I love it. Incredible advice. Harvey, you're probably one of the coolest people we know. And honestly, hanging out with
Appreciate it.
you that night with all those people, all the Canadians, I've realized that, the Canadians are where it's at. They're like the most fun. They're like the most welcoming, kind group of people. Speaking of which, the World Cup is going on. So Canada's got a U.S. soccer coach. Hopefully they do well. Do you follow soccer at all?
I do. I have been, because I'm going to be there next week. Um,
Really?
I just kind of want to figure out what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So if I'm going there to see the Jays, because there's 2 Jays games while I'm there, but it is going to be mayhem while I'm there. And the
Well,
ticket
y'all
prices
have
are just insane. So I won't be going to
y'all
a
have
game.
2 Canadian superstars. There's 2 soccer players that y'all have that are absolutely amazing. But anyways, I can't thank you enough for everything. Thanks for listening to the FourMan Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at FourMan_podcast. And each month we'll release a new episode discussing the trades and bringing on interesting guests from the industry.